Rain hammered the pavement like 1,000 tiny bullets, turning the city streets into glistening rivers of neon reflections. Ayla Rivera, clutching her thin jacket around herself, sprinted the last block toward the Velvet Crown, the most prestigious, and most stressful, restaurant in the entire city. Her bus had broken down miles away, forcing her to run in the storm. She was drenched, breathless, and carrying the weight of a dozen life problems all at once. Her landlord's voice still rang in her ears. Rent by Monday or you're out. She was tired of being pushed around. By life, by people, by fate. But the moment she stepped inside the restaurant, she was pushed again. Ayla, her manager's voice cut through the air like a whip. He was a sharp-nosed man with a permanent scowl and a personal hatred for anyone who earned less than him. You're late. Again. Table 9 has been waiting 15 minutes. Move. Ayla didn't argue. She never argued. Not because she was weak, but because she couldn't afford to lose this job. Not when she was barely surviving. She tied her apron with shaking fingers and grabbed the tray. The kitchen smelled like garlic, sizzling steak, and burnt pride. Her coworkers glanced at her with pity. They'd all been in her shoes before. But none of them were about to meet him. Table 9. She approached it with her heart pounding like a trapped bird. 3 bodyguards in black suits stood around the booth like statues. And at the center, seated with the confidence of a king on his throne, was Damien Hale. The billionaire. The phantom name behind skyscrapers, mergers, companies, and whispered rumors of ruthlessness. The man who could crush a life with one phone call. Ayla froze for half a second, until his eyes lifted and locked onto hers. Cold, sharp, assessing. You, he said, voice dripping with disgust. It took you long enough. She swallowed. I apologize for the delay, sir. The kitchen. He slammed his hand on the table. The silverware rattled. The glasses trembled. The customers gasped. Do I look like someone who cares? He growled. Ayla's breath hitched. The entire restaurant went silent. Even the music seemed to lower itself in fear. Her manager rushed forward, bowing so low Ayla feared he'd break his spine. "Yes, sir. I assure you." Silence. Damien snapped, not even looking at the man. He glared at Ayla like she was an insect crawling across his expensive plate. "Are you incompetent?" he said, enunciating every word, "or simply too stupid to do your job?" Her cheeks flushed, heat crawling up her neck. Not from shame, from fury. She'd been yelled at all her life. By her drunk father. By angry bosses. By rude customers. But today, something in her cracked. Maybe it was the rain. The exhaustion. The rent notice. The humiliation. Or maybe it was just him. She straightened, eyes burning with a fire she usually kept hidden. "If you shout at me again," she said quietly but firmly, "I'll end you." Gasps. Forks dropped. Someone actually choked on their drink. The bodyguards stiffened, hands twitching toward their jackets. Her manager turned chalk white. The entire restaurant sucked in a collective breath. But Damien didn't explode. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He leaned back, studying her like she had just become the most fascinating thing in the room. "Repeat that," he said softly. Ayla didn't flinch. She didn't blink. "You heard me." A slow, almost dangerous smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "No one talks to me like that," he murmured. "Maybe they should," she shot back. The air crackled between them, sharp, electric, dangerously alive. He tilted his head. "Tell me your name." "You don't need it." His smile widened. "I always get what I want." "Not this time." Her voice didn't shake. Not once. The manager squeaked, "Mr. Hale, sir, she will be fired immediately." Damien raised a single finger. The manager fell silent instantly, swallowing hard. Damien's eyes didn't leave Ayla's for a second. "You have more spirit than sense," he said. "And far more courage than your position should allow. I'm not afraid of you." "You should be." "Why?" "Because you have money," she snapped. His eyes gleamed. "No, because I don't like being challenged. And I don't like being yelled at," she replied. "So I guess we're both unhappy." A ripple of laughter spread from a nearby table, quickly smothered, but Damien heard it. His jaw twitched. He wasn't used to being defied. He wasn't used to losing control. He wasn't used to someone not cowering. He stared at her another long, intense moment before speaking again. "You're interesting," he said softly. Very interesting. Ayla picked up the tray and set it down sharply. I'm not here to amuse you, sir. No, Damien said, but you just did. She turned on her heel and walked away before anyone could say another word. Her legs trembled with adrenaline. Her hands shook. She expected security to grab her any second, drag her out, fire her. But nothing happened. Not yet. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of whispers and wide-eyed coworkers who avoided eye contact, as if she'd signed her own death sentence. Finally, when she stepped outside into the cold night, she felt relief wash over her. Until she heard Damien's voice inside her head again. Tell me your name. No one challenges me. Interesting. A shiver crawled down her spine. She'd stood up for herself. She'd refused to be stepped on. But at what cost? As she walked home through the dripping streets, she imagined the worst: unemployment, eviction, maybe even legal trouble. Billionaires didn't forget insults. They didn't overlook threats. But at the same time, why had he smiled? Why had he looked at her that way? Why had he stopped the manager from firing her on the spot? Something didn't add up. Ayla had no idea that Damien Hale was watching her leave through the restaurant's window, eyes narrowed in contemplation. And as she disappeared into the rain, he spoke to his head of security. Find out everything about her. A beat. Tonight. A storm had begun, but not the one outside. The one named Damien Hale, and the woman brave enough to stand up to him. Ayla woke up with a pounding headache. Not the physical kind, the emotional kind. The kind caused by stress, fear, and replaying last night's confrontation with Damien Hale over and over again in her mind. She groaned and rubbed her eyes. Her tiny apartment smelled faintly of damp clothes and old carpet. Sunlight pushed weakly through the thin curtains, but it didn't warm the chill in the room. Her phone buzzed with overdue bill notifications. Her landlord's message blinked menacingly. Final notice. Monday morning. She sighed and dragged herself out of bed. She didn't know if she'd been fired. She didn't know if she was going to be sued. She didn't know if she should show up for work again. But she knew one thing. She did not regret standing up to him. She regretted the consequences, not the action. She pulled on a hoodie, poured herself a cup of cheap instant coffee, and tried to convince herself that the billionaire had already forgotten her existence. But deep down, she knew he hadn't. Men like Damien Hale didn't forget anything. Especially not someone who challenged them publicly. She tried to shake the thought off as she brushed her hair into a ponytail. Then, bang, bang, bang. Ayla jumped, nearly dropping her mug. The knocking wasn't the lazy tapping of a neighbor, it was forceful. Authority-like, demanding. Her blood turned to ice. She crept to the door, heart pounding, and looked through the peephole. Two tall men in black suits stood outside. Not police. Worse. Bodyguards. Her chest tightened. No, no, no. She opened the door only a crack. Can I help you, Miss Ayla Rivera? One asked. Her throat went dry. Who's asking? The man handed her a sleek black card embossed with silver lettering. Hale Industries, Executive Office. Special Appointment Division. Her stomach twisted. I'm not going, she said immediately. He insists, the guard replied calmly. I don't care what he insists, she snapped. Tell him I'm busy. The men didn't move. She slammed the door shut. Absolutely not, she muttered. No way. She'd rather scrub toilets than face Damien again. She'd rather get fired. She'd rather. More knocking. Harder this time. Miss Rivera, the guard called. Mr. Hale said you may refuse verbally, but you will still come. That sounds like kidnapping, she shouted. No, ma'am. We will transport you safely. Voluntarily. Well, I'm choosing not to go. Silence. Then the guard spoke again. Mr. Hale said you'd say that. Her heart skipped. He also said to tell you this. You don't run from me. Ayla's breath caught. Anger flared hotter than fear. Tell him. But she stopped herself. What could she really say? In the end, she knew she couldn't hide forever. It was better to face whatever consequences he had planned than wait in fear for them. She opened the door fully. Fine, take me to him. The guards nodded politely, respectful, not forceful, which unnerved her even more. The Tower of Power. Hale Industries towered over the city like a steel giant, its glass windows reflecting the world like it was beneath it. Ayla felt like a mismatched puzzle piece in her cheap hoodie and worn jeans as she walked through the grand marble lobby. People in suits stared at her like she didn't belong, which, of course, she didn't. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. When the doors opened, she stepped into a world of luxury. Dark walls, soft lighting, expensive art, a panoramic view of the entire city. And at the center, Damien Hale. He stood with his back to her, hands in his pockets, staring out over the skyline like he owned every inch of it. Which, honestly, he probably did. He didn't turn around when he spoke. "You made quite an impression last night." Ayla folded her arms. "If this is about firing me, just do it quickly." He turned. His eyes swept over her, not in a suggestive way, but in a calculating one. Almost like he was confirming she was real. "Sit," he said. "No." A small smirk, still defiant. "I'm not here to play your games, Mr. Hale." He walked toward her with slow, deliberate steps. The closer he got, the more intense his presence became. Like standing too close to a storm. "I'm not firing you," he said. "I'm offering you a job." Her mouth fell open. "A job? Personal assistant, executive level." He handed her a folder. "Salary. Triple your current income. Health insurance, housing support, benefits, security." She stared at the papers like they might bite her. "Why me?" she whispered. His eyes softened. "Just a fraction. Because you're the first person who's ever looked me in the eyes and told me the truth. That I'd end you. That I can't scare you." She scoffed. "You're used to people trembling, huh?" "Yes," he replied honestly. "Fear is familiar. Respect is rare. Honesty is impossible." "Well, I didn't exactly plan a motivational speech, Damien." She winced after saying his name. But he looked pleased. "Good," he murmured. "You should call me that." She stepped back. "This is insane. You don't even know me." "That's what makes it interesting." "No," she said firmly. "I'm not a toy. I'm not a charity project. I'm not a pet." His expression hardened, but not angrily, thoughtfully. "I don't want a pet," he said. "I want someone unafraid to tell me when I'm wrong." Ayla froze. The sincerity in his voice unnerved her more than his temper had. "What's the catch?" she whispered. "None," he said, "except one rule." "Which is?" He stepped closer. Close enough to hear his breath, see his eyes soften, feel his presence engulf her. "Don't threaten to end me again." Then, almost teasingly, "Unless you mean it." Her cheeks heated. She stepped back. "You're unbelievable." "Thank you." That wasn't a compliment. For me, it was. She closed the contract folder, her mind spinning. Money, security, stability, everything she'd never had. But also, him. Complicated, dangerous, intense, magnetic. "I'll think about it," she said. "I expected you would." She turned to leave. "Ayla," he said suddenly. She stopped. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't read, something between admiration and warning. "Next time someone tries to break you," he said quietly, "don't just warn them. A pause. Destroy them." A shiver ran down her spine. She didn't know if it was fear, or something else entirely.